2 or 3 minutes past 5:30. If you could give us a few more minutes, we'll be starting shortly. Thank you. There was a way that we were showing them what they do, but it's fine. So over your key responses, let's just say okay. And everything's fine. So you're going to be starting off on the blank slate and everything else.
I wanted to make sure that I
No, thank you.
movies.
stragglers at the back to please come in and join us so that we can be starting right about now. That would be awesome. And say thank you for being. I'm not going to read it out. I hope you can all see it. And if you do not have it, maybe your neighbor has it. So just turn to them and say, neighbor. Welcome to our lovely panelists up front, our special guests who are here for the evening. It is such a delight to have you here, and I'm so excited for the invaluable insights we're going to be gaining tonight. I would also like to extend a gracious apology from the Honorable Emma Theophilus, the Deputy Minister from the Ministry of Information, Communication and Technology, who would have loved to be here but due to other commitments is unfortunately unable to join us tonight, as well as the apologies of Ms. Jasmine Matias, the advisor to the President of the Republic of Namibia, His Excellency, Dr. Happy Kengo. She is also unable to be here tonight but extends her best wishes to us for this event. On that note, without any further ado, I'm going to once again say thank you all for bearing with us. We're starting a bit late, but we're hoping that this is going to be an exciting and engaging discussion. And like I said, on that note, I'd like to welcome Ms. Olga Chilombo Priscilla on stage, our fearless manager of operations for the RDJ Group. Olga, please come to the stage.
Has decided that my speech at every event always comes first. So not always easy, but let's do it. Dear esteemed guests present, industry stakeholders, and the general public attending this event in person and virtually, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Thank you for being here with us tonight, and I'm honored to sit here. So as you know, I hope we are all hungry to learn more about this green hydrogen industry, and especially the role that women can play in it. And I'm so happy to see a room of women, and this shows really that there is a great potential in this industry for us. Before we get to the main course of the day, it's important to get to know the chef, right? Yes. So and also have a little starter to prepare you for what comes thereafter. That is why I'm here to briefly onboard you about who we are and therefore set the scene for tonight's discussion. Ladies and gentlemen, we are the RDJ Group, a 100% Namibian company, which is a group of companies consisting of the consulting and the publishing arms. The RDJ Consulting basically provides advisory services to both the public and the private sector and carries out projects pertaining to the energy and sustainability landscape across the country, SADC, and as well as beyond our continent. Meanwhile, RDJ meaningful events surrounding thought leadership, awareness raising, exports, and career fairs, just to mention a few of our services. RDJ Publishing is a company that emanates from the publishing home of the flagship RDJ Briefing magazine, which is written and authored in collaboration with RDJ Consulting, which is based here in Namibia, London. Speaking of publication, we have so far successfully published over 60 editions of the RDJ Briefing, which is read across the world through press reader and issue platforms by governments, leading institutions in the energy, water, transport, and environment sectors, as well as ICT. Apart from this, RDJ Publishing is set to launch and publish 2 important publications in 2023, and they will be released on a quarterly basis. The names are the Africa Infrastructure Series, which you will probably see on the slides, and the other one is the African Women Views and Voices. So we are hoping to feature some of you in that publication. The launch and publication date will be communicated to stakeholders and all the subscribers. After the outcome of our last public talk, which was held in June 2022, under the theme Sustainable Aviation, Are We Ready?, it was evident that the public lacked enough or in-depth knowledge about the industry and other related topics, and they were so intrigued to finding out more. Therefore, the advocate group thought of bringing this, bridging this gap by raising public awareness through various thought leadership events, and in essence, support the industry by eliminating misconceptions surrounding the new industry. RDJ Group is guided by finding solutions to problems related to the development of the continent. It does this by identifying gaps in the economy and providing possible solutions. And for some time now, we have been observing that the green hydrogen and the ongoing efforts to develop Namibia in this, going in this direction is really highly on demand. While doing so, we realize just how much it's needed to bring about a balance in the gender gap, to bring about a balanced gender participation in this industry. Well, I hope we are now clear about who we are and what we do. So let's get briefly to discuss what tonight is all about. Those that attended the Namibian National Green Hydrogen Conference in August 2022 can recall the unforgettable chemistry lesson that we all learned from Nanula, who is from NIPDB. For those that missed it, today is the day that you get to catch up with the lessons. A few questions that run in my mind as we are here in this evening is, what is green hydrogen? Why does it matter? What proof is there that there is a gender gap in the industry? I would really like to hear more from our panelists. And I can also think of what economic and ethical challenges can the academia bring about in this industry. Personally, this is the first time I not only attend, but also get to speak at a women's event in a professional setting to discuss fundamental matters pertaining to vital industries such as this. I believe strongly that our more than capable speakers and panelists will be able to enlighten us tonight. My convictions are based on the fact that they will be talking about green hydrogen industry, what we need to know about it. They will also let us know how the public and private sector can facilitate career opportunities for youth. They will also tell us the potential for women in this industry. They will also discuss some social impacts of having a balanced representation in the energy industry in terms of gender. I think we all remember that unusual hailstorm that we had here in Windhoek, specifically around the 16th of October this year, right? Well, I was so excited that day to see Windhoek turn into a little North Pole for a few hours. And I believe that we were all amazed to see the happenings amidst the hot weather, since thousands of photos and videos were shared across many social media platforms in a few hours. However, if we take a little step back from the excitement, we tend to reflect on why the sudden change. It was hot and then a hailstorm. That leads me to ask whether this unusual happening would be alerting us of anything in the climate. Is there any change? Well, COP27 is ongoing in Egypt, and among focus areas being discussed are the promise to innovation and clean technologies, as well as the certainty of water and agriculture to the climate crisis. The role of science will also be highlighted in addition to biodiversity loss, energy Therefore, this event comes just in time to join the world in efforts with COP27 in highlighting and finding sustainable solutions for changes in society such as climate change and the growing energy demand. The question is, why women? We receive that question so often. Are we anti-male? Well, the world usually focuses on economic issues and tends to leave out the gender components. At the moment, the world is focused on transforming the global energy industry to reduce its emissions by shifting away from producing and consuming fossil fuels and their multitude of delivery products. This is well known as the clean energy transition. However, in doing this, the gender aspect is rarely touched. The renewable energy industry, for example, employs about 32% of women compared to a 22% in the energy sector overall. Despite looking greater than the overall energy sector statistics, these numbers are especially low for decision-making positions. A study by USAID and IUCN in 2014 analyzed the gender participation in 72 countries and found out that women representation was only 6% of ministerial positions responsible for national energy policies and programs. So that is a real big problem. The gender gap in technical and research position can be partially explained by the low representation of female students in STEM fields. Basically, women represent more than 50% of university degree in OECD countries, but only 30% within the science and technology sector. Gender diversity is crucial for driving more pioneering and inclusive solutions in hydrogen and energy technologies. Ladies and gentlemen, it is therefore important to note that we are not here to promote women, but rather address an existing gap and diversify the hydrogen industry and technology sector. By doing so, RDJ Group hopes that Namibia can be a lead in having a more diverse and inclusive hydrogen industry. That said, I wouldn't want to go back to my seat without acknowledging the presence of all gentlemen present in the room today. Despite them knowing that we would be addressing a gender gap in the hydrogen sphere, meaning encouraging more women's participation, they still came here to support us. And therefore, please join me in giving a big round of applause for all the gentlemen. That's done. Let's fasten our belts, ladies and gentlemen, because we are about to take off to this exciting and productive journey with the help of our knowledgeable speakers and panelists. And before I go, I would like to give a chance to our lovely group executive, Ms. Renee Jarrett, to come and introduce you to the team that was behind all this hard work so that you get to know us. Thank you.
Good evening all. Olga already did all the groundwork, so I will just call out the team behind, and as you guys can see, we have a very young team. Me and Mr. Jared is the old people behind the young people. So I just want the team to just stand up once I call up your name. David Jared is one of the group executives with me, Rini. Olga Shilombo, she just finished speaking. Lahia Amambo, she's currently not here, but she's our RE specialist and policy advisor. Yeah. Hannah Brendo, policy specialist and PA intern to the RDJ Consulting Services. David Juniors, he is the PA and also researcher for the RDJ Consulting. Helene Namwandi, she's one of our interns She's currently at the back and busy registering all people. Irenella, she's busy writing exams. She's also an intern. Amaku, Amash in short, she's our sales and business consultant. Nicole Felix, she's the one who's designed that lovely magazine you guys are getting every month. And she's the creative designer of the RDJ Publishing. And then Kina, she's the communication contributor at the RDJ Publishing. With that, I'm going to call David Jarrett just to take it further on. Thank you.
David Jarrett. Our big boss is seeming a bit confused as to why he's being called on stage. But
ladies and gentlemen, I'm confused because it's a ladies' event, and I took a step back, and I'm checking my agenda, and I'm still not seeing my post. But anyway, the key point here is that at this point we wanted to have an introduction. Sorry, I just need to be brought up to date because I literally, ladies and gentlemen, took a step back on all of this because we wanted it to be a female-driven event, and you've seen the ladies in. And so I'm very happy to act like the stupid man that has come up and not presented himself well. But at this point, I'd like to introduce my colleague, Professor Chigovare, Zbaya Chigovare, who will be taking us through a green hydrogen introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like you to warmly welcome, although he's not a female, Dr. Chigovare. Dr. Chigovare. So, this is the one thing I know I can do. So both of us standing, so imagine that, for those of you that can remember your grade 12 physical science. So both of us are atoms. Remember, we're not molecules, but now we're a hydrogen molecule. And unfortunately for him, I'm going to have to break.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. David wants me to look stupid, just like what you're saying. I'm not used to speaking with this hand. I'm used to speak and move and walk. Can I hold it in my hands? I have not brought a prepared presentation. So we are going to talk about hydrogen, which I think everyone here has gone to school and has seen the periodic table. The first element on the periodic table is hydrogen. Do you remember that? On the corner, topmost corner, hydrogen, an element with one neutron, one proton and one electron. But that atom is so notorious, it's the most reactive atom known. So you will never find it alone. It's almost like what David was trying to do, to link me to him. That atom always attaches itself to something else. If it happens to attach to another atom, then it becomes a molecule of hydrogen. And it's the lightest element that we know of, yet the most reactive that we know of. And for your own information, it's a gas because it takes a lot of energy to compress it to make a liquid. At room temperature, it will always be a gas. If you want to freeze it, like water is also in the atmosphere here. If you want to freeze it, you go to 0 degrees Celsius, it becomes a solid. But if you want to freeze hydrogen, you go to minus 230 something degrees Celsius. And the energy to freeze it to that temperature is, even so it doesn't freeze, then it becomes liquid. But the energy to lower it to become liquid at room temperature is so intense that it does not make any sense to even try to do it. So in most cases, we compress the hydrogen and it still remains a gas. And I can say with pride 2 weeks ago, I drove a hydrogen fuel car. 2 weeks ago. And the tank was a normal size tank that we know of, which is similar to 60-liter tank for fuel. But that tank is made in such a way that it has got a very strong wall. I think aluminium based inside, and with some, I don't know what to call it, carbon based or a substance that lines the outside of that tank. And it takes only 5 kilograms of hydrogen. Those 5 kilograms will be compressed at 300 bar. Bar is the atmosphere. If we put some scale here and you want to weigh how much is the weight of a column of the atmosphere, that's 1 bar, atmospheric pressure. So if you make it to 300 bar, it means you've compressed and made that pressure to be equal to 300 atmospheres per second. And that tank will hold 5 kilograms. With 5 kilograms of hydrogen, you can drive a normal sized car, not the 4x4s, but a normal sized car like the sedans, for 1,000 kilometers. I mean, 1,000 kilometers. It's unfortunate that I just learned it today, so I didn't have just to put those pictures. I really wanted you to see the tank itself, the structure of it, the car as we talk about it. Even I would wanted to show you myself getting into the car and driving away. And I have seen a tractor that is powered by hydrogen. The only funny thing about it was the tank was above me, not in the place that we are used to. I have seen the big trucks, these haulage trucks, that have now been converted to use hydrogen and diesel. So instead of having only one injector that injects diesel into the cylinder, you inject both diesel and hydrogen. The power that you get from there is immense. And these trucks are already on the road. In Singapore and Japan alone, the small cars, there are more than 2.5 million small cars on the road. So many service stations. If you look on the map and look for hydrogen refueling stations, you'll be shocked that only Africa does not have a hydrogen refueling station. And we're hoping that the first one will happen here in Namibia. I can say this with a lot of pride because I am participating when I say I, that's wrong. UNAM and the Namibia Green Hydrogen Research Institute is participating in some of those pilot projects that are funded through SASCAL by BMBF. And one of those is to build a new village in the Dowres constituency, where we want to generate electricity, and after generating that electricity, I think we have a small demonstration in which we will show you how that happens. Solar power, wind power, get it to become electricity, desalinate water, make it, break that water into hydrogen and oxygen. We don't care so much about oxygen. Of course we care because when we get COVID, we'll shut it. But this time we're going to have lots and lots of oxygen that we don't need. So in general, people who make hydrogen in large quantities, they just let go of the oxygen into the atmosphere. And then we keep the hydrogen. When we burn hydrogen, or when we make hydrogen pass through a fuel cell so that we can get electricity back, the hydrogen will combine with oxygen. So we'll take oxygen from the air, and it combines with hydrogen to make water. And when that combination happens, it releases a lot of energy. If it releases that energy as electricity, then we have the typical example that we have of the small demonstration that I see here. So how come we want to generate electricity with the sun and the wind, and then again convert the hydrogen that we make from that energy, and then from there we get electricity, then again we want to convert it back to electricity? Sounds stupid, isn't it? Otherwise, just get the electricity and use the electricity. But the unfortunate thing is the sun rises and sets, so at night there's no sun. But the hydrogen can be kept in a tank. So that hydrogen that is in a tank, we then make it flow through a fuel cell, we get electricity, and then we can get what we call baseload power we can choose to have a constant value of electricity coming out of our power plant. Even if there's a cloud, even if the wind stops at some stage, even if it's at night, we can take that hydrogen and still generate electricity. So our Downes constituency, where we are going to have a hydrogen village, will be using that electricity. Then we have another pilot project where we have a tugboat. Maybe some of you don't know what a tugboat is. I didn't know either. So don't feel stupid if you don't know. Tugboat is that small boat that pulls the big tankers or the big ships out of port when they're carrying so much load. The ones that pull that out of port so that it can go into deeper water and it can sail away. Or it's the one that pulls it in so that with its momentum, it doesn't come and maybe hit onto the wall at the port. So we will have a hydrogen-powered tugboat. And we have also 2 hydrogen-powered locomotives. One locomotive will be dual fuel, hydrogen and diesel, almost like the one that I was explaining for the tractors. And the other one will be just hydrogen. And it is based on a fuel cell, based on this thing that we have in front here. I'm sure that people will demonstrate to you what this thing is. It's a small toy, but it demonstrates quite okay what hydrogen is all about. So like I said, that hydrogen, once made, we can make it into electricity. But if you want to export a lot of it, like we want to do, we have Hyphen, which is going to produce, or going to establish a plant that desalinates water. By the way, you need 9 kilograms of water. I will repeat, 9 kilograms of water for you to make 1 kilogram of hydrogen by electrolysis. And if we want to export 300,000 tons, I will repeat the number, 300,000 tons of hydrogen per year. I think that should happen in the next 3 to 4 years. You can imagine you want almost times 10 the amount of water. So we should have a big desalination plant. Then the environmentalists who are here, I want to challenge you. Tell me what to do with the brine. The brine is the concentrated salt solution that remains after that. Do you think we can solidify that to feed our kettle and finish it? At the moment, we solidify salt and we sell it to all the countries in England. Our kettle like salt. But with the 300,000 tons of hydrogen that we want to make, the salt will be so much that we will not know what to do with it. Are there any miners in here? Chemists, I wish to challenge you. Let's start a new thing that starts in Namibia called mining from the water. Who knows how much concentration we have in the water of magnesium, of calcium, of iron? The water engineers, can we please start now analyzing that brine and see what are the constituents and see whether there is no niche market in mining from the water rather than blasting from the ground. By the way, the hydrogen that we make is also a very good thing because you can take nitrogen, which is the largest amount in the air, combine 1 nitrogen atom with 3 atoms of hydrogen to make ammonia. Then if you make ammonium nitrate, that's a fertilizer that we use when our plants are flowering. And we all know that white fertilizer with the white granules, that fertilizer is ammonium nitrate, of which Namibia can be a hub for producing that fertilizer. I mean, why not? At the moment, Namibia imports about 40 tons of hydrogen from South Africa. And I can tell you that Namibia also exports hydrogen, by the way, for your information, to Angola. So if Angola needs hydrogen and then we manufacture it here, perhaps we can sell it even at a cheaper price. Excuse me. So, and can we use hydrogen for cooking? Because that's what the question is asked by so many people. I visited, during the last 2 weeks we visited, when I started to really learn, because I was always complaining that you talk about hydrogen, but I've never seen the tank carrying hydrogen. I've never seen the car. I've never seen these things real. So we went to various places, and there's one lab that is busy working on developing the stove that utilizes hydrogen as a gas, rather as the gas for cooking, as the fuel. So these things are happening. It's not yet ready for the market, but people are working on these things. And I don't know, I'm given 10 minutes, David? 10 minutes? I'm feeling that like the 10 minutes will be gone. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go ahead.
Wow. Thank you, Dr. Chiguvare. It was a pleasure having you. Dr. Chiguvare is such a wealth of knowledge. He was also one of the presenters at the Green Hydrogen Conference that happened back in August. So, you know, he's a real expert on these things. And I love the practical examples he gave us just now on where hydrogen is already happening in the world and some of the examples of that. At this point, thank you, David. David's ahead of me. I appreciate that. At this point, I'd like to call up Ms. Charnel Fortain Glovo to give the practical hydrogen demonstration for us. Ms. Charnel is a business developer at HDF, and she's also going to be on our panel later on, stay tuned for that. But at this point, I'd like to hand over to you and
Good evening, everyone. This is a practical demonstration of hydrogen, and I'll quickly take you through the layout. And while the hydrogen is being produced, I'll tell you a bit more about HDF Energy and what we do. Can you guys see the table? I think those who want to come forward can come and have a look. Or I can redo it at the end of tonight for those who would want to have a closer look. All right, so essentially what you see in front of you is your renewable energy source. In this case, I'm using a solar PV panel. This power produced by the renewable energy source is then used to power the electrolyzer. So this blue device you see here, it performs a dual function. In the forward reaction, it acts as an electrolyzer, and in the backward reaction, it acts as a fuel cell which converts the hydrogen gas into power. Over here, we have cylinders, and you can't see from where you're sitting, but it's two bigger cylinders. One is for oxygen, one is for hydrogen, and another second inverted cylinder within the bigger one. And that's essentially where the hydrogen and oxygen gas moves into. So because we don't have sunlight in this room, I'm using battery power to power the electrolyzer. And I'll give it a few minutes for the cycle to complete. In the meantime, I'll tell you about HDF Energy. HDF Energy stands for Hydrogen de France, and we're an independent power producer that specializes in the production of green baseload power from hydrogen. So essentially what we do is we couple the renewable energy source, as you see here, with the green hydrogen technology, and the output of this system is power that is available 24/7. Now, we have a global footprint with teams in America, in France, in Australia, in Asia, in the Caribbean, who are all working to deploy this green hydrogen power technology. In Namibia and in Africa, we are developing, or one of our most advanced projects to date is the Renew Stable Swakopmund project. And Renew Stable is basically renew because we use the renewable power, and stable because the output is stable power. This project is currently under development, and we are set to reach financial close for that project in the beginning of next year, and with construction to start by mid-next year. In terms of green hydrogen projects in the country, we are currently the most advanced in terms of steps taken. We have submitted our environmental clearance, the environmental impact assessment report, which is the final step before you receive your environmental clearance certificate to start construction. So very significant milestone. Also, just 2 days ago at COP27 at Egypt, we signed with the European Investment Bank, where we have received 10 million euros, which is going towards the project. more progress of HDF in Southern Africa. Thank you. I'd just like to share one more highlight, and that is this exact same technology we are deploying in South Africa and contributing to the Just Energy Transition Program of the country, where we are signed with Eskom about 3 weeks ago for a 25-year land lease agreement in the Mpumalanga area where most of their coal-based power stations are. And we will be deploying this exact Renew Stable technology, the same type of power plant that we're developing in Swakopmund. We will be deploying 1,500 megawatts of solar power coupled with 3,500 megawatt hours of hydrogen storage. So that's a lot of power. All right, so back to the demonstration. When you come closer at the end of the event, you'll be able to see that hydrogen bubbles have formed in the cylinder. I see them now, as well as oxygen bubbles. Now, when I remove the power source from the electrolyzer, I'm going to couple this, which is the load. The load we can assume this is a household. And once it is coupled to the now fuel cell, the hydrogen that has been produced in the cylinders is drawn back into the fuel cell, converted to electricity, and you will see the lights of the load light up. Similarly, as Prof. Shivogare explained, the fuel cell is essentially the core or one of the core technologies when you talk about green hydrogen. And as HDF, we are also a manufacturer of fuel cells. So the utility scale fuel cells that we use for our power plants, they're about 40-foot containers. And when you have to adjust them for application in vehicles, they are much smaller and compact. But essentially, this is the fuel cell, and the ones we use is based on the proton exchange membrane technology. I just threw that in there. All right, thank you guys.
Thank you so much, Chanel. That was awesome. Guys, this was the first time I saw a presentation. Wasn't that cool? Yeah. Oh, I've already got a question back there. Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Sorry, the translucent holders, the two glasses at the end.
Yeah.
What's in there? You say there's oxygen and there's hydrogen in there.
Could you answer that, please?
The liquid in there.
That's probably one of the most important parts that I skipped. So there's water. In the electrolyzer, there is water. And there's also water in the cylinders. So, and it's distilled water. So for hydrogen processes, you need to use ultra pure water. So even if you have desalination processes, you need to take it a step further to purify that water.
Thanks for that question. That's awesome. We're already getting engagement so early on. I love it. Moving on to the next thing. Once again, thanks, Chanel. But just moving on with the event because I know you guys are like, yo, guys, this program. Bear with us. Thank you. Moving on, we're now going to have a quick green hydrogen video, kindly sponsored or kindly given to us, given the US Embassy granted us permission to show this, and this is from the Department of Energy. So let's check it out. Thanks, Kina.
First of all, thank you for the invitation and for organizing this important event. It's an honor to be able to present today on behalf of the U.S. Department of Energy, where I am the director for the Hydrogen and Fuel Cell Technologies Office and also the coordinator of DOE hydrogen programs. And what I'd like to do today is cover three main messages. First, our national goals and the sense of urgency in terms of climate, energy security, resiliency, economic situation. And if we start with U.S. energy consumption, you can see that renewables at 13%, surpassed coal. This is the first time in history. And you see the diverse options here, but we still rely very heavily on fossil fuels. And so we need to consider the entire portfolio. And the administration's goals in the US include net zero by 2050, and very ambitious interim goals, including a clean grid by 2035. And another priority I'd like to emphasize is energy and environmental justice. For instance, our Justice 40 initiative, where 40% of specific federal investment would benefit disadvantaged communities, so those who historically experienced injustice. And this is important for all of us as we think about the clean energy transition. How do we address the equity, environmental, economic issues right from the beginning? So hydrogen is one part of a very comprehensive portfolio. And at the U.S. Department of Energy, we have a strong activity across from research to deployment and the entire value chain. And if you ask, there's so much interest in hydrogen, and if you ask why, one of the main reasons is versatility. And this image, H2 at scale, represents the Swiss Army knife approach of hydrogen, the fact that we can produce it from diverse domestic resources, you can store it, use it across applications. And we have a DOE-wide hydrogen program plan. We just released the National Clean Hydrogen Strategy and roadmap. This is available for public comment at the draft. And we have hundreds of projects and significant effort. Now, if you ask, where are we in the US on hydrogen? We produce about 10 million metric tons, about 10% of the global capacity, mostly for refining and ammonia production. We have over 1,600 miles of pipeline, 3 geological caverns, including the world's largest. And if you look across the country, most regions have hydrogen production, and most of it's from natural gas. With the green, for the first time, we are mapping the electrolyzer deployment. So PEM electrolyzers, over 3-fold increase in just 1 year, but still less than a gigawatt, so it's a nascent industry. And this is one snapshot in time. It's moving very quickly, but we can see hundreds, thousands of fuel cells across applications in the US. So there's still significant challenges, though, and which brings me to my second message for today, and that is cost. So if you look at a survey over thousands of stakeholders, you can see cost to the end user is the #1 challenge. There are many other challenges, so sufficient infrastructure, public awareness and understanding, safety concerns, and there's still a number of challenges when it comes to hydrogen. So I'd like to emphasize the recently launched Hydrogen Energy Earthshot or Hydrogen Shot. So this is in response to President Biden's request to our Secretary of Energy last year at the Climate Step Summit to accelerate progress towards meeting our climate goals. So there'll be there's a series of Earthshots released, and this is similar to the Moonshot from over half a century ago. Bold, ambitious targets, so this easily articulated target to galvanize the community of 111, which stands for $1 for 1 kilogram of clean hydrogen in 1 decade. So today, hydrogen is at $1.50 in the US with low-cost natural gas. So to really unlock that market potential for clean hydrogen, we are targeting $1 within a decade. So it's all hands on deck, and we're looking at all the possible pathways. Some significant effort on electrolysis, going down from over $5 a kilogram today. See, most of that cost of electricity. We also have capital costs. Our goal is $2 by 2026, eventually $1. And we're also looking at, again, multiple pathways. So, for instance, natural gas or other waste product conversion, advanced pathways, again, any possibility to get to $1, which also includes scaling up. So it's not just the research. So we have significant policies in place now in the U.S. thanks to the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law and Inflation Reduction Act, which includes $9 billion for clean hydrogen under the bill, for electrolysis manufacturing, at least for regional clean hydrogen hubs. So we announced a funding opportunity opportunity recently. Also significant tax credit, depending on the carbon intensity of hydrogen, 1.4 kilograms CO2 per kilogram of hydrogen, and developing a national hydrogen strategy and roadmap. So there are three main pillars of this roadmap. So target strategic high-impact use cases. So especially those hard to decarbonize sectors, industrial. Steel alone accounts for over 7% of global emissions. Heavy-duty transport, enabling clean grid through long-duration energy storage. Second pillar is reduce the cost of hydrogen. And third is focus on regional networks. So how do we co-locate large-scale production and use, create that infrastructure and how to get to scale. So number of enabling activities, workforce development, safety codes and standards, and energy environmental justice. And this gives you a snapshot of potential demand opportunities for hydrogen. So our goals are 10 million metric tons clean hydrogen by 2030 and 50 by 2050. And you can see again, this is market-based, so not just how much hydrogen we can produce, but shows there is uncertainty, so additional demand scenarios could include exports. You can see starting with existing markets, such as industrial markets, and then multiple applications here. So for example, trucks, steel, methanol, and energy storage. So again, these are scenarios for the demand opportunity in the U.S. for clean hydrogen. So we have a comprehensive portfolio across research, development, consortia with our national laboratories, as well as industry, universities, and technology integration validation. So de-risking first-of-a-kind demonstrations. We have multiple truck projects, renewables, nuclear, first-of-a-kind data center, the first-of-a-kind ferry in the Western Hemisphere, fueling hydrogen for steel projects, and significant deployments and financing initiatives. So including the hydrogen hubs as well as loan guarantee projects. So we have a loan guarantee office, loan program office, and two new projects specifically for hydrogen. So financing 1.5 billion, for instance. And enabling activities, for instance, workforce development, Center for Hydrogen Safety. Again, the entire portfolio. And this brings me to my third message for collaboration, as well as diversity, equity, and inclusion. These are really high priorities. And I use this quote often, and since there's so many experts out there in the audience, I think we all know that no matter what we do, no matter how hard we try, no one person can whistle a symphony. It really takes the whole orchestra. So now again, it's such a critical time in history. We need all hands on deck, government, industry, investors, the disadvantaged community. Just a few shown here. Again, many, many examples, IEA, H2 Twin Cities we launched, ministerials, mission innovation, breakthrough agenda. This is just one example. Go to ipg.net, where especially facilitating international trade and a common methodology for the carbon footprint, looking at the gaps in code standards, and if there are any students, early career professionals out there, the Early Career Network, which now includes over 200 members across 34 countries. So feel free to look at all of our resources available and save the date. Again, tremendous amount of resources available through the DOE. And for those who are not familiar, since hydrogen is element number 1 and the atomic weight is 1.008, in the U.S., 10/8 or October 8th is designated National Hydrogen and Fuel Cell Day. So we have increased your H2IQ webinars. Again, public awareness and understanding about hydrogen is minimal. So please do spread the word. And thank you again for organizing this event and for this invitation. So have an excellent rest of the conference. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Dr. Stapital, I believe it was. So I'm guessing you guys are like, why did we show a video on the US? Like, how is this relevant? Well, they mentioned quite a few things that were relevant to our discussion tonight. You probably didn't see the number on the screen when they were talking about their green hydrogen strategy, but they only got a strategy in September of this year. And guys, if you didn't know, just a little FYI, Namibia did their strategy this month, November. We got our green hydrogen strategy, so round of applause to us, we're moving. In addition to that, I loved what she said about it taking multiple flutes to have a beautiful symphony. And that's exactly why we're here today. We've realized that the gender component is extremely valuable in the hydrogen discussion. So that's why we're here, guys. And on that note, we're going to move on to a bit of a fun part of the event. We're going to have a hydrogen quiz. Kina, if you can pull up the QR code. So at this point, I would like you all to please scan the QR code on your screen, if possible. I'll give you a few minutes, or a minute, and if you guys are good, please give me a thumbs up if something's showing up on your screen. And at this, so if everybody's good, then we'll move on to the poll. Are we still waiting a bit? 30 more seconds. People at the back, are you succeeding? Awesome. I'm getting a thumbs up. Any more thumbs up? I'm getting a couple. Okay, am I fine to move on? I'm getting some no's, anxious no's. It's okay. We'll wait a bit. Okay, Tina. Am I good to move on, guys? Okay, awesome. You guys should be probably on one question and you can't go anywhere else. We're opening up the poll now and then you'll be able to start it. So, first question is, how many large-scale green hydrogen projects are underway globally? Is it 100, 55, 425, or 350? Don't scream your answers out, just wait, just wait. I like the enthusiasm though. Okay, can we move on to the next question? I'm hearing some weights. Guys, just choose one, it's okay. There's no prize money if you get it right or wrong, unfortunately. Okay, next question. Which regions are the green hydrogen projects in Namibia set to take place in? So currently, there have been 4 major pilot projects announced in Namibia. In which regions are they going to be taking place in? The Kavango and Khomas region, the Irongo and Hardab region, the Karas and Irongo region, or the Kunene and Omaheke region? Okay, let's move on to the next question, please. Next question. How many direct jobs are predicted to be created in the green hydrogen space in Namibia? Is it 5,500?
You just move up and then you say next.
You need to scroll up. Sorry, it's not going to automatically go with us. If you scroll up a bit, there should be something that says next. Sorry guys, I should have said that. On the top right. My bad, forgive me. There's a lot going on tonight. Forgive me, please. Okay, so the question again, how many direct jobs are predicted to be created in the green hydrogen space in Namibia? 5,500, 270 jobs, 30,000 jobs, or 15,000 jobs? Next question, please. Which of African countries are planning large-scale green hydrogen projects? Is it Zimbabwe, Rwanda, Chad, and Benin? Malawi, Togo, Lesotho, and Namibia? Namibia, South Africa, Egypt, and Morocco? Or Botswana, Namibia, Niger, and Mozambique? Okay, let's see your answers. Next one. Such as green hydrogen. 15%, 7%. Wow, poll is full, no longer accepting responses. Yikes, you guys are really participating, but it's good. 51% or 32%. Globally. These are the global numbers of women in renewable energies. Okay, next question please, Kina. Which industry is less likely to directly benefit from green hydrogen? And maybe at this point, you guys, because the poll is full, maybe we can just have like somebody raise their hand, but which industry is less likely to directly benefit? Does somebody want to guess? Just raise your hand and I'll pick you. You guys are shy. Okay, I see your hand in the back. ICT and telecoms. Anybody else want to say something? Agriculture is less likely to benefit. One more. Transport. Transport is less likely to benefit. Okay. Okay, guys, thank you. Let's see the answers. Let's see the answers at the end, man. Let's give it a minute. Thank you, though. We'll see who's right. Okay. When was the first hydrogen fuel cell developed? First ever. Was it 2015? 1839? 1922? Or 2001? Does someone want to guess? When was the first hydrogen fuel cell developed? Anybody want to take a risk? Yes. 2001. I'm hearing 2001.
1922.
1922. Okay, 2001, 1922. Cool. Let's pause on that and see who's right. Okay. 1839. Are you sure? That's sounding a long ago, man. Let's see. Okay. Next question, please. 1 kg of hydrogen equates to 33 kilowatt hours, which would allow you to power your laptop for 14 hours, 14 days, 1 day, or 33 days. Who wants to guess? Yes. 33 days. I'm getting one for 33 days. Anybody else? 14 hours. Okay, 33 days and 14 hours. Let's see. I think it's one more or we're done. We're done. So Kina is quickly going to organize the correct answers for us. Wow. You guys were contributing. I love it. So, those are the stats of what you guys were saying. And the correct answer is 350 projects. Yeah, 350 projects currently underway in the green hydrogen landscape. So, that's pretty significant. Okay, next question, please. You guys seem pretty sure about this one. Karas and Irongo region. Are you right though? Yes. You're right. It's the Karas and Irongo region. Good job, guys. Next one. So, how many jobs do you guys said 50,000 jobs. It was tied, nearly tied between 30 and 15,000 jobs. Who's right?
15,000.
15,000 is right. Yeah, that's the predicted amount coming from government. Okay. And which countries are planning to have large-scale green hydrogen projects? There was a resounding voice on this one. And you were right. It's Namibia, South Africa, Egypt, and Morocco. far can you drive with 1 kg of hydrogen? 56% of people said 100 kilometers. I was right. I feel like you guys, okay, I was thinking that everybody said 32%. I was like, ooh, somebody was looking at the pamphlet because that information's there. But I see it was like 7% and 32. It's actually 32%. That's the right answer. Which is, by the way, much more significant than oil and gas industry, which has 26% of women involvement in it. So you can see that there's a real trend of women moving towards clean energies, which is very interesting. Okay, which industry is less likely to directly benefit from green hydrogen? Most people were saying ICT and telecoms. You're right. You're right. ICT and telecoms, there's not a direct linkage to it. With, versus construction, there's green steel. Agriculture, there's green ammonia. So that's going to be used in fertilizers. And transport, there's the vehicles, like we've said. So Dr. Che Guevara mentioned the trucks and the car that was powered by hydrogen. So as you can see, there's clear linkages with the rest. We're not saying there's never going to be any linkages with ICT, but it's less likely to be one of the ones directly benefiting right now, anyways. Okay, when was the first hydrogen fuel cell developed? The correct answer is 1839. You are right. Someone is really excited about that. No, that's awesome. Yeah. So actually, it was a while back. This isn't something completely new, I should say. Maybe the green hydrogen part is a bit newer, but hydrogen as a energy carrier isn't. So, last one. A lot of people said 33 days. Why, guys? Because of the 33 kilowatt hours. You're wrong. It's 14 days. It's approximately 14 days. Yeah. Okay. And we're ending it there and going back to what the reason that we're here, for the professionals to tell us some insightful things. At this point, we're going to be having some video presentations of guests who would have loved to be with us, but unfortunately cannot be. Ms. Davina Ngai is a communications manager for the Global Women's Network for the energy transition. Yes. So she's coming all the way from Kenya, and the Global Women's Network is based in Australia. So she's going to be telling us a little bit about her work. Austria, my bad, correcting me. Thanks, Dean. She's coming all the way from Austria, and she's going to be giving us some good content. Thank you, guys.
Hello, my name is Davina Ngai, and I'm the Communications Manager at the Global Women's Network for the Energy Transition, or GWNet for short. And we seek to address the current gender imbalances in the energy sector and to promote gender-sensitive action around the world. And we do this through advocacy, networking, and mentoring. So what is the energy transition that we talk about? So we see the energy transition as multidimensional, complex, and nonlinear. And this is a process that seeks to radically reform energy supply and energy systems, and not by simply switching fossil fuels for renewable energy sources, but going deeper into changing patterns in consumption, in distribution, in investment, bringing together diverse stakeholders to influence policy and regulations and social practices. And we set such big goals for the energy transition. We believe the best talent is required. And when we look at the best talent, this is talent which is diverse from different regions, of different genders, different experiences and areas of expertise to be able to achieve what we've actually set out. And so when we talk about diversity and gender diversity specific, what does that look like in the renewable energy sector? So in 2019, IRENA released a report which gave us numbers on what gender diversity looks like. So this report tells us that in the traditional oil and gas sector, we have 22% participation of women. But when we look at the renewable energy sector, we have 32% participation of women. And there is a gap, a 10% gap, but both fall short of the 50% that signifies equality. And when you dive deeper into the renewable energy sector share of women, the 32%, what we do see is that there is a quite large number of women in administrative positions and fewer women in STEM roles, and that's science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And when it comes to management and decision making, even fewer women. So we're far from equality, but we do see that we're doing better than the oil and gas sector, and you might ask why. I think a big part of it is just how dynamic the sector is. It's novel, it's ever-changing, there's so much happening, whether you talk about storage or green hydrogen, there is so much happening, and I think this attracts the best talent, and it attracts diversity by its nature. And I think this is why the renewable energy sector has been able to recruit so many women. Because it's new, it also doesn't have the established structures of oil and gas, which is quite male-dominated. And it's important for us, even as we build these structures for renewable energy, that we ensure that they're based on diversity and inclusion, so that we can reach equality in very many ways. And why do we promote gender equality? First and most importantly, equality is a human right. Access to opportunities, including employment, is a human right. And women's rights are human rights. So when we're talking about right to access employment, this should be the same for women as it is for men. And that's why we promote gender equality in the renewable energy sector. But we also see benefits to businesses and organizations that focus on diversity and inclusion. The first is the improvement in GDP. The second is we've seen companies with diverse leadership have better results, and this could be they're better prepared to survive financial shock. And I think over the last few years with the pandemic and with other issues, the energy crisis caused by Ukraine, we've seen the shock to the energy sector. We're also looking at improved profitability, increased innovation, decreased risk and overconfidence, increased action on environmental issues, decreased litigation for environmental breaches, and more stringent decarbonization policies. These are all benefits that come about from having a more diverse and inclusive leadership. We've also seen that women have been shown to have outstanding leadership skills, and this is a benefit, of course, to any organization. And there are very many benefits of having diversity and inclusion, and more women within organizations, and these are just a few. But as GWNet, this is what centers our work. We believe that diversity is critical for renewable energy, it's critical for green hydrogen, and there's still barriers in recruiting and retaining and advancing women within this sector, but there's a lot of opportunity we see for growing women's inclusion within energy transition. Thank you very much, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the event.
Thank you. Now we are moving on to one of our own, Prof. Anicia Peters, who unfortunately couldn't join us this evening, even though she would have loved to be, because she is currently at COP27. So without further ado, Dr. Peters.
Good afternoon. I am Professor Anicia Peters, and I am with the University of Namibia, the Pro-Vice Chancellor for Research, Innovation and Development. Last year, in September, we established a Namibia Green Hydrogen Research Institute to be hosted at UNAM. Now, the emerging green hydrogen economy is very important for all Namibians. Namibia intends to set up green hydrogen valleys in different parts of the country, with the first developments in the Karas and Erongo regions. As the green hydrogen plants are being constructed, the preferred bidder, Hyphen, will generate an estimated 15,000 jobs, with a further 3,000 jobs once the plant becomes operational in 2025. There are, though, other developments such as HDF Energy and Cleanergy. Cleanergy is a company formed between Ottawa Invest and CMB Tech, as well as several other pilot plants where UNAM, for example, is the R&D partner. During the construction of the plant, different types of workers are needed, as well as different types of companies, especially MSMEs and SMEs. In other words, entrepreneurs are needed. Furthermore, wherever these developments are occurring, there are ancillary opportunities such as tourism, housing, restaurants, education, green schemes, and diverse services needed in those towns or regions. Women should ensure that they participate in these different types of opportunities. Currently, when the green hydrogen projects are being spoken about or planned, it is mostly men around the table and mostly men who are participating. We see mostly men on the front pages or as spokespersons in green hydrogen developments, and it seems as if it is only men who have a seat at the table. Rather, women, when they are featured, tend to be featured as beneficiaries to ease questions about the gender discussions. Diversity, especially gender equality, equity, and representation, is very important in any development. If we hardly see women speaking or participating on green hydrogen, it is very difficult for other women to enter, as green hydrogen then becomes stereotyped as something only men is interested in or can do. Often it is mentioned that there are almost no women in the fields needed for green hydrogen, so everybody seems to be searching for the women, and women have become like the elusive partner in all of this. Women are also not applying for opportunities such as a recent call to be trained as trainers for green hydrogen. However, there are MSMEs led by women. There are women artisans and engineers, women in chemistry and physics as specialists, women in renewable energy, women in computer science, etc. And these are all fields that green hydrogen needs. So, do you think that as a woman you cannot do it? Or that other women cannot do it? Think again. The HES telescopes constructions outside of Windhoek has been done in Namibia, where the main company was actually led by a woman called Renate Schmidt. And she had actually ensured that the subcontracting is only to other Namibian SMEs. So yes, we can do it, and even as women we can do it. Women should realize that we play a pivotal role in this new economy with its entire value chain. But we need to come to the fore more strongly. We need to build our confidence and also upskill ourselves to be able to participate in those discussions. Women should actively seek for opportunities where they can benefit and contribute their skills, talent, time, and money. We should also participate in the green hydrogen scholarship schemes, set up businesses around the value chain of green hydrogen, and generally become involved also in the discourse around green hydrogen. If women do not take advantage, become more confident and enter to the forefront, then we will also not be able to bring other women with ourselves into the discourses and into the projects around green hydrogen. So start now by reading on the developments around green hydrogen in Namibia by going to the website of the Office of the President at gh2namibia.com. Then search for calls for scholarships, vacancies, and other opportunities. If you are a woman in green hydrogen, start volunteering your time to participate in the associations and attend conferences, presentations, and discussions. Make yourself visible and your voice heard. And I believe that this will go also a long way towards creating more opportunities for other women to follow in your footsteps. If you are already a woman in a leadership position, start by creating more exposure opportunities for other women in the field. And there I am including myself, because I have also consciously decided to look for the women who are specialists in green hydrogen and give them that exposure. Thank you so much. Good afternoon.
Thank you, Prof. Peters. It would have been great to have her here, but we are so grateful for the video that she was able to send through, even though there's so much going on. At this point, my colleagues at the back are letting me know that I should please remind you all to follow us on our social medias, which is at the back of the event brochure. And please tag us in your experience of the event. Take a cute selfie outside in the garden, and make sure that you use the hashtag NAMWGH2, basically for Namibia Women in Green Hydrogen. Awesome. Thank you, guys. At this point, I've got the very great pleasure of handing over to the ever elegant and ever professional Ms. Lavisha Nishili, who's the Technical Advisor for Renewable Energy Investment and Regulatory Framework at GIZ. Lavisha, please come to the stage.
Hannah, you are so kind. Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen in the room. Welcome to the female panel. I think this is the meat of the discussion. We have a very tremendous lineup of panelists here with me tonight, and without further ado, we will get straight into it. The goal of the next hour really is to examine how women can position themselves to participate and contribute to this green hydrogen industry that is at its inflection point. And here is how the hour is gonna go. So we're going to introduce our speakers. They will come up on the podium, and then they will give a brief introduction on the topic of the focus. And then thereafter, we call the next speaker until they're all done. And then thereafter, they all then sit on those lovely chairs. And then I will join them to discuss and get to the bottom of this issue tonight. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, our first speaker is my colleague and university roommate at some point. She is a senior technical advisor at GIZ Namibia. In her current role, she works closely with the Ministry of Mines and Energy and key stakeholders in establishing a sustainable green hydrogen industry in Namibia. She is a mining engineer by profession and holds a master's in international mineral resource management and a diploma in development finance. She is an advocate for African socio-economic liberation, and she will be speaking on the role of green hydrogen in the development of the rural areas. And for those that came from the village girls in the room like me, you can holler at me. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Tuli.
Thank you so much, Lovisa. That was a powerful introduction. You have really ignited a flame within me tonight, eh? So before I speak, I just want to thank everyone for joining us tonight, ladies and gentlemen. But also, I just want to thank the speakers before me because they have done an exceptional job in explaining what is green hydrogen. Particularly what Dr. Chukubari has mentioned, and also Chanel, in terms of the demonstration that they have made. And one of the things I want to mention is green hydrogen is not green. It is a colorless gas, as illustrated over there. And the reason why I'm actually starting with that is because there is a narrative around the word green that's in front of hydrogen, right? And in order for us to understand how can green hydrogen act as a catalyst for the development in rural areas in Namibia and Africa at large, we need to firstly understand what is the narrative of green hydrogen, what are its targets, where is it coming from? Then secondly, what is the narrative of Africa in terms of what are the challenges we are experiencing in an African context? And then thirdly, how can we match those two, right? So then firstly, what is the narrative of green hydrogen? Now, a number of times you might have heard of the Paris Climate Agreement or the Paris Agreement, which is an internationally binding agreement for countries to have actionable actions to achieve climate change goals. Now, you might wonder, what is climate change? During the Industrial Revolution of what is now called the First World Developed Countries, they have, or during the process of fossil fuels, right, which is known as a dirty hydrogen source. During this process and production of fossil fuels, toxic greenhouse gases have been emitted into the atmosphere. Now, the problem with greenhouse gases is that they are damaging to the environment, they are damaging to the climate. What does this mean? They cause extreme weather patterns. For example, in the context of Namibia, we are causing extreme drought, where we have lack of access to water. It's causing wildfires, even in the Namibian context. Sometimes you will see on social media, or even close to your homes, you will see fires, wildfires that have started, and also farms that are impacted by this. They also then cause disruption in food supplies. They also then cause sometimes health defects. So now, given this current context, what is green hydrogen, right? So green hydrogen is a cleaner energy carrier, and processing it does not emit carbon or toxic greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. So that's why now there is such a move into using green hydrogen as an energy carrier source, right? So in order for green hydrogen to be sustainable, it needs to be, firstly, we need to use renewable energy sources. Secondly, we need to use water and land and just protect the biodiversity sustainably. And third of all, it should not emit carbon and toxic greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. So in essence, this means that we are trying to track and decrease our carbon footprint within the globe, right? Now, given that context, what is the African context? What is the reality on the African ground? Now, in terms of the African context, I will speak of a nexus called water, food, and energy. In terms of the African context, when it comes to energy, Africa is always classified, let me not say always, because I want to end this narrative that is described in Africa. Africa is described as an energy poverty continent. What do I mean by energy poverty? This means that 620 million people, which is equivalent to over 2/3 of the people on the African continent, lack access to electricity. In terms of Namibia, what does this mean? It means 50% of our people in Namibia do not have access to reliable, clean energy. So meaning that if you are seated here today, you are one of the fortunate people, the fortunate 50% who have access to energy. In terms of water poverty, Africa is actually considered to be the most impacted continent when it comes to water scarcity. So in terms of figures, 1/3 of Africans on the continent lack access to clean, affordable water. This means that then, within the Namibian context, it means obviously, as I've mentioned before, we are experiencing drought. And many people within the rural areas who depend on natural resources are feeling this impact the most. So meaning that once again, if you're seated here today, you are one of the fortunate who have access to clean, reliable water sources. For example, over here down there are water bottles. You can walk over there to get something to drink. And fortunately enough, while we were walking in, there's a lovely water fountain as a pleasurable feature. Now, when it comes to the food nexus, the food pillar, Africa is considered to be the world's most food insecure continent. This means that at least 1 in 5 Africans go to bed hungry. This means at least 140 million people in Africa face an acute hunger. Now, hunger or food poverty is caused by a number of things, but one of them particularly being the drought that we're experiencing and the scarce water resources. Secondly, also as mentioned earlier by other speakers, the fact that fertilizer prices are quite high, which is not affordable for small-scale farmers or the normal agricultural sector in Namibia. So you might wonder, why am I actually mentioning all of these things, the challenges of Africa, and then also starting with the narrative of green hydrogen? Now, when it does actually come to solving our socio-economic challenges that we're facing in Africa and Namibia, I want you to imagine, perhaps even close your eyes and try to imagine a hydrogen-fueled power cell in the village, deep in the south or up in the north of Namibia, or even far east in Kenya, in the slums of Kenya or in Nigeria. Now, my question is it right to think of a hydrogen-powered fuel cell without actually sorting out the basic human rights needs? Is it right to think of a hydrogen-powered fuel cell when people go to bed hungry, when people don't have access to electricity, when people don't have access to sustainable water resources? Now, what I'm saying, don't quote me wrong, is I'm not saying it's wrong to think of a hydrogen-powered fuel cell in the village. But what I'm saying is that we need to use this hydrogen sector to solve the basic human needs in villages. How can this be done? In terms of energy poverty, hydrogen facilities produce a lot of energy. They need a lot of energy for production. So some of the plants are actually designed in a way where they have excess power. So some of the solutions that we're currently considering is trying to integrate the excess power into the infrastructure of Namibia. That means we're decreasing our dependence of importing electricity from our neighboring countries, but that also gives us an opportunity to increase our infrastructure and supply energy to rural areas, right, as we are producing it on the ground. In terms of water, hydrogen powers or hydrogen production needs a lot of water, and water needs to be desalinated. So if there are models with decentralized hydrogen productions, maybe we can have, probably in the future, we can imagine five hydrogen production facilities across the country. And if we can decide that each production and each hydrogen facility can then supply some part of this desalinated fresh water to a rural area nearby, that's possibly a solution. In terms of food security, hydrogen is not the end product. Hydrogen, there's a further process called power to X, where you can convert hydrogen to other products, either liquid, either gas, either solid. Now, in terms of solid, you can convert it to ammonia, as explained before. Now, in terms of ammonia is a fertilizer. So a direct contribution to that is that you can use fertilizer produced in the country at cheap prices and supply this ammonia as a fertilizer to the agricultural industry in Namibia at an affordable price for small-scale farmers in rural areas. Now, there are obviously many ways in which hydrogen can solve the challenges that we're experiencing. But for me particularly, it really makes the most sense within my personal capacity to use this industry that is coming to Namibia to solve our basic human rights needs. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Tuli, for getting deep into the issues that concern all of us. I think what Tuli is trying to put across is that eventually, if you think about it, and this is a little bit personal for people like me that came from the village deep in the north. When you think about it, that the African problem is more socio-economic than it is environmental emissions and stuff, if we have to be frank. And it's very important that since we have a very grand opportunity with the hydrogen economy, that we sort of create a link between the green hydrogen industry and our pervasive socio-economic issues. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to say thank you to Lee for that. And I'll throw it in the room and let's think about it. Let's bring it together. Let's come together and think about how can we collectively bring into this green hydrogen industry that link. Our second speaker, ladies and gentlemen, speaking with excitement, is the Executive Director of Research, Innovation and Partnerships at the University of Science and Technology, NUST. Her office focuses on strengthening the university links with industry, communities, and global partnerships to solicit opportunities for consultancies, applied research, technology development, and skills transfer. She also serves on the board of the directors as a deputy chair for NAMWater. And for tonight, ladies and gentlemen, she will be unpacking the subject of female-led research in the energy industry. And ladies and gentlemen, I have the honor to please welcome to the podium Dr. Anna Matros-Horizon.
Thank you so much, Louisa. You're making it absolutely difficult, and you're thinking, okay, who is she talking about here? But thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. And I need to say, RDJ, you guys did an excellent job. I wanted to start off by saying, if you look at the title of your journal, your publication, it's energy sustainability, right? If you look at the topic for tonight, it's, what is it? Reimagining the future. Imagine the future. And I thought, oh, but these colleagues, it could have been us. But thank you for that. So, Louisa indicated that I lead research, innovation, and partnerships at the university. Namibia University of Science and Technology. And before I get to that, I wanted to just say that I'm a water scientist by profession with economics addition to that. So I would like to believe that I'm really strategically positioned in many instances to look at opportunities in a 360 degree angle. And I'm bringing that into the picture because we know we're talking hydrogen, and I think Sivai, I don't know what happened to him. I think he got a bit intimidated. Oh, okay. Thank you very much. And he mentioned, he's a very good colleague, ex-colleague of ours as well. And he mentioned that basically it is, when we are looking at what we are trying to do with green hydrogen is really to remove hydrogen from a water molecule. So it all boils down to that. So I wanted to say strategically, I actually thought I was going to go last, but so far the presentations were really excellent in the sense that I don't really need to go into the statistics. I needed to talk about female-led research. The statistics were really already mentioned by the speaker from the US, where she really articulated quite clearly where we stand in terms of STEM and jobs in that field. Also, a lot was already said. So I'm going to look at this discussion, a little bit of a change in plans from the energy, the clean energy and gender equity perspective. We talked about the opportunities that green hydrogen presents to us, but I want to look at it from a human endowment perspective. The question really is, how do we ensure that the benefits that are being accrued are actually going to go to the marginalized groups? And in the African context, and we've all talked about that today, because that is the reality and this is where we are. We are talking about largely females with disabilities, the youth in the rural areas, and informal areas. So I'm not specifically talking, and those of you that know me are probably wondering, oh, she's talking about women, because I'm always saying, look, we need to look at talent management at large, and not necessarily for women. But I think it is important that we look at it from an inclusivity perspective. So we're not just talking women, we are talking disabilities, we're talking the youth, we're talking the unemployed youth, even more so, because I'm from a university, and one of the challenges that the president put to us in the beginning, especially when he was setting up his task force on Fourth Industrial Revolution, was to say, what are you guys doing about this? You are supposed to drive the nation towards this revolution, and I'm not seeing that. So it is really a real challenge for us to say, what is it that we are doing? And why I said, when I look at the topic and I immediately say, yes, I would love to be here and talk about it, is at NAST, our mandate is to develop the nation for jobs that don't exist yet. We need to empower the nation for the future. And that means we need to understand where are we going so that we are able to then do or fulfill our particular mandate. And that is where I'm actually very encouraged to talk about what we are doing at the university to be able to enable female, we're not there yet, we've all seen the statistics, in the STEM fields in particular, where we are lagging behind. And what we are doing really is looking at how do we bring the issues of innovation and technology into everything that we do. We are a University of Science and Technology. And therefore, when we talk about energies, when we talk about clean energies, we're talking about technology infusion into that in particular. So really, green hydrogen presents an opportunity that I think Anisha mentioned it, said we have a clean page. What are we going to do about that? And what we are saying is we are trying to create a technology, what is the word that we're normally using? A technologically inspired ecosystem. And what that means is we are bringing together everybody. And now I'm talking of entrepreneurs, I'm talking of students, I'm talking of experts, your professors, I'm talking of the industry partners. We are very fortunate to have HDF in our building as well at NAST, and that is exactly it, bringing the industry presence to campus. Now, a lot of us have been talking about skills development and what are we going to do, what are the skills out there, because as much as we're talking about we need to empower ourselves in green hydrogen, let's face it. Green hydrogen hydrogen has an entire value chain that we need to look at it. So there's no skill in green hydrogen. There's no, we were recently asked to look at, you have to start with developing courses in green hydrogen. We need to empower the nation. Let's get ready. You know, the hydrogen wave is coming and we need to ride the wave. And we are saying it is a combination of various elements. There is an entire value chain that is out there that we need to empower. And it really includes everybody. We're talking from your engineers, your water engineers, your civil engineers. We're talking the entire value chain. You've seen it. And you've talked about it quite eloquent. I love food, water, energy nexus, by the way. It's one of my niche research areas. And exactly that. So what are we doing? When we're saying let's empower people for cleaner energies, it's everything that we're doing there. So I don't want to go into too much of a detail, not to steal your thunder when it comes to the panel discussions, but really just to come back to the issue that I wanted to speak to today, and it's talking about the entrepreneurial opportunities within the female-led energy space. And I think that is an untapped space that we have not yet explored to the maximum. And I think this is where it is important that we bring various perspectives to the party and look at what is out there for the female, for the woman. Let's change that narrative that says in the STEM field there are no females. I mean, if you look at our statistics when we're graduating, our females are in the top. You will really look at it and you look at our cum laudes and it's females, but it's in the other fields. So the point is we can do it. It's because we have been in a different cultural perspective that I think many of the times we are saying we are let's go for things that we are going to go through a little bit with less challenges, but it's because there are other challenges that we are not putting in perspective. That we have the numbers, we have analyzed it, and we're trying to understand it, and there are many areas around that we're looking at. And what we are saying is, let us rather look at how do we get to a just, inclusive, and climate resilient future for us all. At NAS, just quickly, Madam Chair, I'm about to close off. What we have done, and you would have seen, we have the InSTEM program, but that InSTEM program is led by females at the university. The HAS program that Anisha was talking about is actually being satellite applications and technologies being led by females in the university. So it is important that we do have, and we have actually quite a renowned lady in the university, Dr. Smita Francis, that has actually started the STEM in Women network at NAST. So if you know about that, for example, it really opens up not just the STEM in women, but also women in mining. We're quite progressive in that at the university as well. But I want to end off with a couple of questions, if you allow me, Madam Chair. And because I'm coming from the research and innovation space, I would like to challenge the research today so that we can unpack the impacts and the benefits of green hydrogen beyond the generalizations of, I think somebody mentioned it, of socioeconomic benefits. What does that mean actually? Simply put, we need to do assessments that will shed the light on who carries the burden and who enjoys the benefits. I'm looking at Harold Schutt. This week we had our research week, which is very befitting for this discussion, by the way. And our research week, the topic was actually green hydrogen. And he put it out there, and it was quite frank and said, listen here, who is carrying the burden? What is happening? We think this is great, but I still think this is great because I still think it is an untapped opportunity for us. But I will go on with my questions and I'll say, who has the capacity to take the advantage of opportunities? And whose capacity is it that we need to enhance? We've started with green hydrogen a long time ago. We are saying Namibia is the best, best place strategically for that because of the resource that we have. But where is the capacity coming from to be able to tap that in Namibia? Okay, and my last question, again, food for thought, is what are the barriers and how can these be removed in order to promote equity? So does the micro, small and medium enterprises regulatory environment promote equal opportunities for accessing credit for small players to participate? These are the questions that we need to ask ourselves as we are talking about the opportunities for females in this particular space. I will leave it there, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Doctor. I think Doctor touched on pretty much everything from jobs to entrepreneurship to research. And I think every young person in this room is thinking about, especially the unemployed youth, is thinking about what life is there if I do not have an opportunity or a hope to be able to be employed one day. And for a person that I have experienced unemployed myself, I always say that what you lose when you are not employed is not actually only the ability to be able to provide your livelihood for yourself, but rather a sense of belonging, a sense of purpose that really eventually eats at you. So thank you, Doctor, for deep diving into that, and also for entrepreneurs. I think we all agree in the room that economies are not built by governments, but rather by entrepreneurs and private sector that is really looking at identifying the needs and filling those gaps to make to build a real economy. Thank you for that. And also then on the research side of things, I think it's important to realize that the African continent is pretty much lagging behind in terms of research, or our research do not necessarily translate into real tangible technology development. And I think we owe us a chance at that. Thank you. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, our next speaker, our last but not least for tonight, is a process engineer by profession. She was selected for the Mandela Washington Fellowship for Young African Leaders in 2015. In 2014, she completed the University of Cambridge Institute for Sustainability Leadership online course, Business Sustainability Management, which laid the foundation for her passion towards business sustainability and strategy. In 2018, fortunately speaking about entrepreneurship, she co-founded two tech startups, Red Apron Namibia and Kamachona, and is now a business and project developer for HDF Energy, developing hydrogen to power in Southern Africa and East Africa. For this evening, Chanel will be sharing insight on the topic of the advancement of green hydrogen in Africa for women. Ladies and gentlemen, I have the ultimate pleasure to welcome Chanel to the podium tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Lovisa. The topic, advancement of green hydrogen for women in Africa, I was asked to share a bit of my story of how I got into the green hydrogen space. I will also touch on a few myths, demystify some of the myths around the industry, and then also share a bit more of my experience working in other parts of Africa, and then some advice for women who seek to enter the green hydrogen industry. Now, I just want to expand a bit on what Dr. Gorases has mentioned. You know, when we talk about green hydrogen, there's not one specific technology. Yes, there is fuel cells, maybe the most specific, but in general, we have to consider the entire value chain, from project development, project planning, to construction, to operations. We need to look at manufacturing of equipment. We need to look at the supporting services that surround such an ecosystem. And these are many non-technical services. Some are technical. Essentially, what I want to share with you tonight, and I'm sure many of you have backgrounds in various industries, hold various degrees, and I hope that my story, the shortened version of it, might encourage you to be open. So my story is really one of being curious. I like to call it urag. and being open to my own evolution with a lot of fear, but that was tempered with a strong conviction as well. So my story started as a little girl in primary school, and I remember in grade 7 always reading textbooks, and every new chapter would start with by scientists and engineers. And I remember thinking to myself, but who are these people? Like, everything that was big and amazing in the world was developed by them. And I was like, I want to be one of those people. Coming from a background where tertiary education was not the norm, it made me even more determined. A few years later, through my dad's work at one of the uranium mines at the coast, they had organized visits for family and friends to come and see the operations. I think I was about 13, 14 years old at the time. I just remember my sister and I on this bus, long bus ride to Arandis with guava juice and a brechin in our hands, not knowing what to expect on the other side. Once we arrived on site, I was like a deer in headlights. I saw before me massive equipment, earth-moving equipment, 300-ton equipment, leaching ponds. I mean, in retrospect, now I know what those things are. But when I saw them, that exposure really married what I read in my textbooks with the reality. Long story short, I became an engineer, material science and metallurgical engineering, and I loved mining. Now, this is the part of evolution. That was one of the most pivotal moments in my career, was when I took this course about sustainability leadership. And going from someone that was very technical and focused on operations on the mine, my mind was now exposed and expanded to a bigger picture. And this is the first time really where I learned about how the society, environment, and the economy interact, and how we can shift those interactions to more directly ensure a sustainable world for us to live in. Because those cannot exist without each other. We cannot have a sustainable economy without sustainable principles, and without people, none of those can exist. So now, equipped with my technical background and new heart for sustainability, I was still curious about business, and with the Mandela Washington Fellowship, I went on the business track. I had absolutely no business experience, but I went. And that is really what led me to the startups that were mentioned. And I will just mention one, Red Apron, which is really close to my heart, because I see the business as a vehicle to solving society's problems. And I had experienced having a domestic worker who earns a minimum wage of 1,500 Namibian rand per month. And this really bothered me. They were largely under-earning, under-trained. And through our startup, we were able to double and even sometimes triple that income. Unfortunately, we had to put it on hold due to the pandemic. Now at this point, equipped with technical background, heart for sustainability, and passion for business, I was ready to re-enter my formal career path. And this is around the same time, it was last year, June actually, when Namibia was really at the cusp of announcing its green hydrogen ambitions. And this is also where I say, know who the people are who are around you, that they not only support and cheer you on, but they mention your name in rooms where you're not present. And I have many such people in my life, and such a conversation led to me being invited for an interview at HDF. I was 7 months pregnant at the time. Needless to say, a few weeks later, I signed my contract. And it's been a really exhilarating experience. I mean, from being able to be part of this revolution in our country, but not only our country, my hometown of Swakopmund, to be building Africa's first hydrogen to power plant is really amazing to me. other experiences around Africa, I can say that, I mean, I was in Rwanda going to look for potential project sites out in the middle of nowhere, in a taxi, busy pumping milk because I was away from my baby for more than a week at a time and having to chuck that milk out at some point. So it's really all these experiences that make it unique for us women when we are out there in the workplace. That is my story until this point, and I'm saying this to manifest it, but my goal is ultimately to be an executive within the energy space. The story, and what I want to just highlight through all of that, you may be sitting here and thinking, oh, but I'm a lawyer, or I'm an environmentalist, or I'm in communications. It's not really the typical fields for green hydrogen, and I want to say to you, if you've seen how many times I've jumped industries and looking at my colleagues, they range from being engineers, environmentalists, communications people, and we are all doing the same job right now, developing hydrogen projects across Africa. So please do not limit yourself, be open to your own evolution. And essentially that will all start by exposing yourself to events such as this. Some of the myths surrounding green hydrogen, and I say the first one just to give you comfort maybe, and as some of the other speakers have mentioned, green hydrogen sounds very new when you first hear it. But when you look at the technologies involved, solar PV has been around for a while, wind energy has been around for a while, electrolyzers have been used in industry and the mining industry, chemical and mining industries for decades. Fuel cells, as I have also only learned tonight, was first developed in 1892. So take comfort in that these are things that are there. You don't need to be scared of that, the word green hydrogen. Green hydrogen, one of the myths is also, I mean, when we are developing the project in Swakopmund in quite close proximity to the community, one of the myths is that green hydrogen is extremely dangerous. Now, yes, it has those characteristics, such as having one of the widest flammability range of any fuel, and it can also detonate at certain percentages. But the good news is that hydrogen is very light. So once it enters the atmosphere, it is lighter than the air. It quickly dissipates to levels which are below its explosive limit. So hydrogen, carefully managed, need not be any more dangerous than any other fuel that we are used to today. Another myth is that hydrogen is inefficient and not economically viable. As Dr. Shibugare touched on, sure, it would be more energy efficient to directly electrify the load, but in some instances, it's just really impractical and not feasible to store such a large amount of energy because there's huge energy demands with some processes. And therefore, hydrogen with its unique storage capacity and combining it with renewable energy technologies will lead to lowest and least cost energy systems, especially when we consider the anticipated cost trajectory of green hydrogen, which is expected to go down significantly in the next few years. And lastly, if green hydrogen is so great, why now? And really, it's just come at an opportune time. Renewable energy costs have become very cheap. Some of the technologies have matured even further, and we have finally woken up to the perils of climate change. The second last question that I was asked to touch on is, based on my experience in numerous African countries, how would you say the Namibian green hydrogen industry compares to other countries? Namibia is for sure in the forefront of the green hydrogen movement within Africa, alongside South Africa. We recently, just last week, released our green hydrogen roadmap, which basically details what the future is going to look like. Similarly with South Africa. And when we look at East Africa, Kenya is probably the only country right now that has taken the step to start developing a green hydrogen economy. So when we look at Africa, us as Namibian men and women, we are at a very special point in this journey where we can stand up and take up space and contribute to this fast growing industry. Because green hydrogen is not going anywhere, it's the fuel of the future. There is billions and billions of US dollars and euros going into developing green hydrogen projects. So it's really up to us, no matter what our background, no matter what our passion, we can all stand up and contribute to this industry. Lastly, based on my experience, what advice would I give to women seeking to enter the green hydrogen industry? I would say be curious and expose yourself, because you don't know what you don't know. The more people you speak to, the more you read, the more you attend events, the more it will start to crystallize for you how you, in your own authentic capacity, can contribute and add value and gain the benefits thereof. I would just also like to say that for those of us that are already in the industry or the periphery, I'll use an example of myself, is that we need to understand the role that we are playing right now. We need to ask ourselves, do I really know my role and the influence that it can have? Because it's nice to say we look at social impact, for example. I'm mentioning this because it's such a reality for me now. We're working on the social impact and local content strategy for the project in Swakopmund. And it's nice to say it in meetings and in emails and here. But when I had to sit down and start thinking about how do we go about it, and obviously we think, let's first look for Namibian companies before we look for companies outside of Namibia who could do this consulting work for us. I mean, it makes sense, right? But then I had to catch myself, because then I'm like, which companies in Namibia are there? I can't even find them online. Some I don't find online. You know what, let's just hand it over to South Africans or whoever. And I had to catch myself. My colleague and I talk about, Tashia, she's at COP27 right now. We talk about this all the time, where we catch ourselves and be like, if we do not know the responsibility we have in our current role, how can it progress for those who are to follow? So it's a wake-up call for me as well. And I urge each and every one of you, be curious, expose yourself, and start contributing where you are currently. Thank you.
Thank you, Chanel, for actually debunking the myths around hydrogen, green hydrogen, and for sharing your story. I think what you're trying to say to every woman in the room is that nothing is impossible, and we should all dare to rise to the occasion. On the interest of time, I would like then to call up the panel, because it's a little bit, we're lagging behind time, so we can get into the meat of the discussion quickly, and then later we can open up the floor to for the questions. Thank you. Thank you. I think the audience in the room now really then agrees with me that we have a tremendous line of panelists, because after this insightful presentation, I don't think we have any arguments to make. But to tee up the conversation a little bit and to get quickly into the details, I just wanted to throw this thought in the room. Most women do come to these events and they question themselves, okay, there is a green hydrogen opportunity here. The energy sector is really at its inflection point. how then do I repurpose my career to make sure that I become an active participant in the sector? And with that out of the way, I think would then go to straight to throw this question to Dr. How can women support each other in STEM careers and competitive careers like the ones that the green hydrogen industry presents, so that we all then become all active participants? Doctor, what are your views?
Thank you, Louisa. Please call me Anna. Let me say, and I'm really going to keep it very brief. I know we don't have much time. But I want to start with a statement that I know everybody knows in the room. And we always say that there's no equality without equity, right? So you cannot expect to have a fair race before you remove the obstacles. And I think you spoke about some of them quite eloquently as well. So I think it is the job of universities, for example, to level the field so that we remove that precondition for any individual or group of people, for that matter, not just women, to fully enjoy the benefits of development. Having said that, Louisa, you're asking me how. So I've been thinking about this, and I'm looking at, in my mind, a hexagon. And on that hexagon, 6 points, right? How? So collaboration, I think one of the speakers said it already. You need to connect. Connect with whoever you need to connect with. We are used to doing things on our own. And we think there's literally one point of convergence where we need to be. But it's an open field. It's like we talked about the value chain. So there's way to enter anyway. Then coordinate. So I've got 6 C's in my hexagon. So it's connect, it's coordinate, it's consult, it's co-planning, and of course commitment. We need to explore where the investments are right now to promote that sustainability that we're all striving for. And I think the last one I would want to say is the change. Be the change you want to see. So use that C, the last one, to see how do you get into the circle of the hexagon, if there is such a thing. So I would say that would be my how, for us to grab onto any one of the C's in the hexagon and go with it.
Thank you. Given now that Dr. mentioned about the 4 C's, connect, and 6 C's, connect, change, etc. I'm just wondering, Tuli, what do you think is the responsibility of all members of society to encourage equality so that we all have this equal opportunity then to participate? Like I see everybody in the room would want to participate in the green hydrogen space. What is that collective responsibility we have as a society?
Thank you so much, Lovisa, for that question. And for me, the responsibility that lies on everyone in this room and as an individual or a Namibian citizen is, before you enter into a room, always assess the room. The room can be your household when you're out in the garden. Assess the room, assess the garden. Who is there? Are both genders represented? Are both genders, the boys and the girls of the home, actually taking part in activities equally within a home? The room can be in an office space. On a management level, how many women and men are represented equally on your management level? On your board, how many women and men are equally represented on your board? So once after you assess your room, whichever type of room, whether it's at your home, in the office space, in your friends as well, once you assess the room, the next step is to take deliberate action, especially if you're in a position of power, if you're in a position of leadership. You should then take the initiative to make sure that there are policies in place or make sure that there are mechanisms in place to make sure that women can partake in such opportunities. And relating that to the hydrogen or green hydrogen space, especially with people within this room and also us ladies on the floor. Being in the industry, one of the things we need to ask ourselves whenever we're having these discussions and whenever we're looking for people to involve within the industry, are women a part of it? But also most importantly, I just want to end on this note. I know that this event is about women in green hydrogen, but also most importantly, we need to make sure that it is equality, so that we make sure that we also bring men on board as much as we bring women on board. Thank you.
Thank you, Tuli, for that. I think now then this leads me into the next question for you, Chanel. I think the statistic is showing that obviously the numbers between female representation and male representation is a little bit lining heavier towards the male representation side of things. Now, one then wonders, why do you then think there is then a need to push for women involvement rather than just Namibian involvement? Because we've been speaking a lot, Namibia leading on the international stages. Why do we need to focus then locally on more women involvement than just the Namibian involvement?
Thank you, Lovisa. I will keep it very brief. In essence, if we look at our society and in Africa, women are basically 50% of the population. This is a massive untapped pool of talent in terms of skills, cultures, and perspectives. And if you look at who are the most affected with regard to climate change, for example, it is also women. It makes sense to mobilize this talent pool to contribute to the solutions that are being brought forth.
Thank you. I think we should throw it a little bit in the room. Just few key questions for the panelists on stage. If you don't mind, Hannah, you will be taking the mic around. So I think we should get into the questions. We would want to hear what you ladies think, what are the burning questions. And well, I'm really excited to entertain you. Go.
Awesome. So I can't really carry this all the way back here, so I will kindly request for you to come to the first row and pose your question, if you could be so gracious. And I'll take the first hand at the back over there, and then in the blue, and then in the multicolored shirt. You'll be up next. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the question. My question is, or rather my statement is, I came because my sister is on stage, but I don't really know what green hydrogen is. And she's so busy, but I've been trying to get her in the room that she wants us to observe to say, my sister, what is this thing that is green hydrogen? So are we here aware what it is, or are we trying to just be smart and pretend like we know what we're talking about? Apart from the fact that it's renewable energy and there's all these new opportunities, what I really want to ask then, following my statement, is, are there any real opportunities for the grassroots level? And for those of us who are not even in the industry there, or who even understand what this is, how do we explore those opportunities? Even if we don't really know, because we see the opportunities, we see the papers, but we don't really understand. So we don't even know how to start tapping into this opportunity. So how do we do that? And beyond that, do those opportunities really exist for not just me, but for the next person, that it extends beyond the city and all of that? I don't know if my questions.
Was that question clear to the panel? Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna be kind of bold and just ask one person to answer that so that we can get to the rest of the room. Who would like to take it? Yeah, it seems like the sister's answering. Sister, go.
so firstly, in terms of opportunities, so one of the things that I need to mention is definitely this green hydrogen industry is a new phenomenon. So there are a couple of questions in terms of what are the value chains that can exist in Namibia. But the value chains from a theoretical point of view are known in terms of what are the products that can be produced from green hydrogen, right? So then there are a couple of institutions in Namibia and also internationally that are currently doing research on what are the PTX or power to X, otherwise known as green hydrogen products that can be produced. And based on those analyses that can then be localized, we will then do an analysis of what is the current SME environment or entrepreneurial environment within the country that can also sort of match those opportunities that green hydrogen is providing. I know it sounds, what I'm saying, it sounds easy, but it will take a lot of research and it will also take a lot of investments, sort of like development financing, to also just ignite startups, to provide support to startup companies, to actually allow them to provide products that can support this value chain, right? Now, in terms of maybe employment, currently what we are doing is, or currently what the government of Namibia is doing is, they're currently trying to conduct or trying to establish a national green hydrogen skills strategy, where they want to understand the landscape of Namibia, understand what does Namibia have, what does the green hydrogen economy need, and where are those gaps. So once all of these steps are done, then it will be communicated to the nation. But then once again, that is your point and your initiative to make sure that you are part of those discussions, that you are listening, you are aware of when a hydrogen strategy is coming out, of when a national skills strategy is coming out, or when there's a conversation about startups and companies that can support the SME and hydrogen value chain. So right now things are not clear, but what I can say for certain is that the government of Namibia and other institutions in Namibia are trying to plan, are having a stepped approach to plan how can the country realistically support this hydrogen economy. So my short answer is be patient, but be aware and be on alert, be on social media, learn, read as much as you can. Thank you, sister, for your question.
I just want to add, in terms of practical examples, what HDF has done to date, particularly with regard to opportunities. So when we look at the whole development process of a project, we are currently in the development phase and set to enter construction phase next year. But already at this point, we have employed we needed visuals to show people what this power plant is going to look like. We have already worked since last year with a company. It's young people. They were actually trained at NUST in architecture. They have designed the visuals for our plant. And because they did such an excellent job, we have linked them with the rest of the company that is in other parts of the world, so that all the design work can go through this company. That's one. Their name is Vision Media. They're really good at what they do. Secondly, as we are preparing for the site where the project is going to be constructed, certain studies are already needed. For example, geotechnical studies. They need to assess the ground there to be able, that will be input information to the eventual big construction company that will be building the project. And we just 2 weeks ago awarded this tender, multi-million Namibian dollars, to a young Namibian company as well, fully Namibian owned. They were trained in Namibia and they are doing that work for us. That's another example. In terms of the construction phase that we are set to enter into, a project of this magnitude and looking at some of the expertise required, we will most probably appoint an international company to oversee all of the work. But what we are doing to ensure that local companies and SMEs throughout the value chain, whether it's providing supporting services, whether it's actually doing the bricklaying work, whether it's connecting the instruments, what we are doing is to set up basically, we are going to make it mandatory for that big overarching company to select from pre-vetted subcontracting companies. So these are just some of the practical examples in terms of opportunities that we have already done and are working on.
Lady in the blue, please do come up now. And it's very brave coming up here, guys, so let's bear with everybody.
Thank you very much. I'm so excited, and I love seeing women that just give me encouragement of women empowerment. So I'm just going to introduce myself because it's the best platform I have. So my name is Abia Shiweda. I'm a biotechnologist / medical laboratory scientist student at NUST, and I'm so happy that I'm seeing you because I was looking for you. And I was so excited when they called you. So, and also climate change activist, and mostly my focus is more on sick technology because our country is very dry, so we have drought. So my question was like, I wanted to ask, as an entrepreneur, I'm also an entrepreneur. So in terms of, green hydrogen, we have now the green ammonia that we use as fertilizers. Like for me as an entrepreneur who is interested on food security, where do I go? And then the second question is, most of the time when we have these projects, the students that are in universities get to actually benefit because it's easier. Their lectures give them. Now, what happens to the ones that have graduated? The ones that don't have jobs but they have this vision, how do they persuade? Because most of the time they don't get this. Even if you see one of the training that came for about green hydrogen that was just released, it's just asking us and that they forget about this part. So what happens to those people? I think maybe we need to restructure that so that if you're saying you need to create jobs, for universities to actually have graduates that are able to create jobs is when we have these platforms. Like for me, yes, I didn't know that actually the sick technology idea that I had, people thought about it insane, is actually going to be hand in hand with the green hydrogen and everything that is happening on food security. But now what happens to a student now who is a graduate, but let's say he doesn't want to do masters now, an entrepreneur like me, and has that, and maybe wants to collaborate because one of the C's, collaboration. How do I approach our universities to actually help me on this idea, how to make it real? And then Ms. Chanel, since you have gone through the training of business, how are you going to help me or any other woman that is who wants to be a good entrepreneur? You can have a good idea, you can have a business, but it fails. How are you going to help us? How do we connect to you? Because we don't just want to bombard you, we want only to learn and then learn from this, and then we can say, you know what, I got 5 or 4 tips and I did this, and then you can say, oh, yeah, I mentored her. Thank you.
Thank you. Don't rush away. Maybe somebody might need some clarity because those were questions in quick succession, so just hold on. I think the first question was on green ammonia and how to find out about it or how to get involved in it.
When you're having the green hydrogen plan, so now we also have ammonia, the green ammonia, which is good. It's better than the grey ammonia. So now, for a person that is an entrepreneur like me, that's more into farming, so where do I go? Where do I give out this project? Because obviously I will not have money to actually bring this up. Who can we collaborate with?
Okay, so I think that's the first question. Dr. Matros, could you take that one first? Thank you.
Very quickly, and thank you for that question. In terms of, and you are actually well placed. I think actually you know the answer to your question. You just want to ask it for the fun. But there's a lot of spin-off products, and as it was explained, and of course within the Nexus component. So we're talking about fertilizers, and you are going into biotech. So there's a lot that you can do from that perspective. And we always say for universities, our students are our most valuable asset because that's where the ideas are coming from. So we have what we call the High-Tech Transfer Plaza Select. And that is a space where we are saying, bring your ideas. We're actually asking the industry, what are your challenges? Bring your ideas. We'll have our students, our researchers, our experts address that and come up with a particular product that can be scaled up to market. So where do you go? Those are some of the places where you go. We have maybe a business institute, innovation institute, where we help with different particular skills that are needed. If you're an entrepreneur, you have a particular area you want to sharpen, be it financial management, business marketing, whatever. So there are many places you can go, and universities are your first bet where you can enter, especially if you're alumni. Enter and say, this is where I am, this is what I want to do, and then you take that conversation from there. Of course, technology transfer is what we do best. So maybe just to answer that question for you.
Thank you very much. Charnel, are you willing to answer the question on mentorship? Thank you.
I think the question was, how can I assist you in terms of the entrepreneurial space? What I will definitely do is one of the 6 C's, and I will connect you to the people who have trained me and have provided other opportunities as well. So definitely.
Was there another question?
The other one was like for the graduates, how do we get to help them also be part of this trainings or workshops that is only beneficial to those that are actually already in university, but the ones that are graduates, and so that they can be able now to create jobs for themselves. Yes, that's
It's a GZ question. Okay, I'll listen to Doctor.
All right, so one of the things that I did mention earlier is the country is currently busy sort of like drafting a national skills strategy, right? So now in this strategy, it's not only about trying to come up with courses that are relevant to the current kids, to the current youth that are in school, right? But it's also about understanding that Namibia has a high unemployment rate. And within that unemployment rate, there are quite a number of young people that are already trained in a specific field. So they are graduates in specific areas. So one of the elements of this national skills strategy is to understand how can we reskill and upskill those graduates that have graduated 3, 4, 5, 7 years ago. So there will be courses, short courses, or probably longer courses that can adapt you to the current demands and needs of this hydrogen economy. I hope that answers.
One last thing. Okay.
what Ms. Anna alluded that the student can come to the university and then the university asks companies and then the students get to. Now, what if is now for the student not to just give it to, because you give it out to the company. What do I benefit from that? Because I want to also create a company for myself. I want to create employment for others. I don't just want to give out my idea. Like my idea will be